Hello, hello. You're just hopping on. Tell me who you are, where you're from. Hello, hello. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Hello, hello. If you're just hopping on and you're new here, tell me who you are, where you're from. Hello. Maybe somebody will talk to me tonight. Hello, hello. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Hello. Nobody wants to talk to me. If you're new here, my name is Renee. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. My sheet is falling down. It's bugging me. There we go. Oh, now I've knocked my tripod over. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Hello, hello. Hopefully I have enough light. My USB thing broke off my ring light, so I've got to figure out how to redo it. Hello, hello. Nobody wants to talk to me tonight. Surely somebody does. I'm a little early. I know I'm never early. I was like a minute early. That never happens. Ah, thank you for the hearts. I appreciate that. Do you have a name and where you're from? Hello, hello. If you're new here, tell me who you are, where you're from. Hello. Thank you for the hearts. Not sure who sent them that time. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Hello, hello. From Maryland. Is it Edward? Welcome, Edward. My name is Renee. Welcome. So tonight we're talking about, we're going to talk about self-confidence. Once a few people hop on. Liquor Butte, West Virginia. Do you have a name? Sorry, I can't talk tonight. North Carolina. And then what was your name, hun? Sorry, guys, I haven't been on in a week, so it's going to take me a little bit to get back in the swing of things here. My dad passed away, so I took a couple days off. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee, and tonight we're going to talk about, I guess I'm told, a lady on my YouTube video said, you need to tell what you're going to talk about sooner. Well, I usually wait for some people to get on, so tonight we're going to talk about self-confidence. So, but I'll wait just a few minutes because I'm a little early. I'm never this early. So we'll see if anybody's going to get on. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Looks like everybody's going to hop off. Nobody wants to talk about self-confidence, apparently. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Hello, hello. I'm just going to wait a few more minutes. Like I said, we're going to see Arizona. Do you have a name, Arizona? My cat just knocked something off. Something. Had to have been a cat because the dog's right here. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Dropping like flies tonight. All right, well, maybe it's just a busy Sunday night. Nobody's going to get on, so we'll get started here in just a second so you know why I'm here. Hello, hello. Did you tell me your name? You told me you were from North Carolina. I wonder what Marie's up to. I don't know how to send an invite though. I'll have to figure that out. Okay, well, I waited a few minutes, so we're just gonna get started, and who hops on, hops on. If you're new here, tell me who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee, welcome. So just a little bit of why I'm here. So I started my TikTok in March of 2024. I'm not sure, let's see, my grandson was born on the 15th. So it'll be 2 years here in a week. The reason I started my TikTok is because in September of 2023, for TikTok purposes, my husband unalived himself. That's when I discovered that I had abilities to talk to my spirit guides, and they slowly breadcrumb me to my purpose, which is to be here, which is to help other people through their loss. If you're not familiar with my story, like I said, if you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. My name is Renee. If you're not familiar with my story, my husband and I were together for 32 years. And my husband decided, like I said, if you missed it, to unalive himself in September of 2023. In those 32 years, we were never apart more than 2 weeks. And so when after 32 years, I had never known an adult life without him. Thanks for the hearts, Jen. And so when everybody kept telling me, Renee, just keep putting one foot in front of the other, I literally didn't know how to do that. I could barely breathe. And so once I had discovered that I was going to stay on this planet, hey, Jason, how are you? If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Thank you for the heart, me. I appreciate that. And so once I decided I was going to stay on this planet, good evening. And I wasn't sure that I was going to, actually. My daughter said to me, she said, Mom, you realize your life is worth living too, right? And that's when I had my light bulb moment. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to stay. And now my husband didn't leave me in a great spot financially. And so therapy was out. And I'm the circle that don't fit in the square. So I knew group therapy wasn't going to work for me either. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to stay on this planet. I have to figure out a way to heal myself. And so I started to deep dive into meditation, into journaling. And when I went into meditation, that's when I discovered that I had abilities. The first message I ever got from my guides was in meditation was, what heals you will heal others. And that was my first puzzle piece to discovering what my purpose was. And so then they led me to get online and to talk about my story. And so here I am. In July, it'll be 2 years since I've been doing lives on TikTok. I always like to say I am on my journey of life where I am, and you are where you are. We're not all going to agree on everything. So we agreed to disagree here on this page. I only have 2 rules. The first one is we talk absolutely no politics, and the other one is I just ask that you be kind. That's it. So tonight, usually when I go live, my guides give me a topic. So tonight we're going to talk about self-confidence. If anybody's had a loss and you need to share, please do share in the comments. That always takes precedence over any topic that we talk about. Is it Peter Carlton? Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. If you're just hopping on, tell us who you are, where you're from. If you missed it, my name is Renee. Welcome. And like I said, tonight we're going to talk about self-confidence. So we talk about loss here. We talk about all kinds of things. Anything that has to do with healing, we talk about. So self-confidence. When you look up self-confidence, it says, and I forgot to mention, we're not shy here. So pipe in anytime. I do not have any filters on. Sometimes they like to filter my comments, and there's nothing I can do about that. But so if I don't read your comment, I probably didn't get it. So self-confidence, the belief in one's abilities, worth, and capacity to handle life's challenges rather than the lack of fear. So Do you have high self-confidence? How do you know if you have high self-confidence? Anybody want to talk to me tonight? If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. So, do you have high self-confidence? Do you take risks, maintain boundaries, and positive self-talk? April from North Carolina, welcome. Glad to have you here. My name is Renee. April, welcome. Tonight we're talking about self-confidence. Do you have love confidence? Sorry, I wrote these 2 days ago. Usually I don't get the topic until like right before I go live. And she gave me the topic 2 days ago, my guide did. So I should have read over it to refresh my memory. Thank you for the hearts, Jen. I appreciate that. So do you have love confidence? Fear of failure and constant self-doubt? How do we build self-confidence? Anybody want to throw something out there and talk to me tonight? How do we build self-confidence? Sorry, my cat has her poof ball, so you'll hear her. We set goals, practice self-compassion. When we say self-compassion, what does that mean? Anybody? If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Positive thoughts. There you go. Yes, that's definitely one of them. So what does self-compassion mean? Silence the inner critic, right? Replace negative thoughts with encouraging, positive thoughts. There we go. Is it Blair? Is that your name? And where are you from? Positive self-talk. Exactly. Giving yourself grace. Yes. I'm so glad. Thanks for talking to me, guys. I appreciate that. Setting small goals, right? I know that setting goals doesn't seem like Virginia. Welcome. Understanding that you're human and not perfect. Exactly. For sure. Showing yourself grace, compassion. Exactly. We are not perfect. I know some people are going to be like, well, how does setting goals fit into having self-esteem, right? Or self-confidence? Well, when you have goals in life and you work towards those goals and it gives you something to shoot for and you make those goals, it helps your self-confidence, right? If you're just hopping on, tell us who you are, where you're from. Tonight we're talking about self-confidence. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee. Welcome. So setting small goals, manageable goals to build a foundation of success, right? No, I don't want to. I'm sorry, I don't want to co-host tonight. I apologize. Maybe another night. Thank you for the likes. Yeah, if you guys can just tap the screen, that really does help me. And so when I say creating manageable goals, being accountable to yourself. Yep, exactly. And telling yourself the truth, right? That's the thing, is being honest with ourselves. So when you set goals, you want to set them manageable, but you don't want to set them so low you're not stepping out of your comfort zone. Does that make sense too? Thank you for all the hearts. I appreciate that. But setting goals is building that foundation to success, right? So if you want to achieve something in your life, say you have a goal to, I don't know, just throw something out there. I would like to be a life coach, right? And so I'm working towards that. And so I have goals every day, small goals that are stepping out of my comfort zone every day to build that. Sorry, my cat's on the hunt with her poof ball. And so every day I have to work on those small goals, but then I have the big goal, which is to become a life coach, right? And so in order to become that, I have to work on those small goals and set up that foundation for the big goal, right? So then setting big goals, right? Which I think it's important. You should work your way backwards. Sorry, guys. I have not been live for a week. I got to learn how to talk again. So set those big goals, and then you can set the little goals in steps to get to those big goals. Does that make sense? Lose weight, for example. There we go, Jen. That's a good one. Yes, so losing weight. And so you have that big goal of losing weight. You have to have little goals to get to that big goal, right, Jen? So maybe it's watching your calories, or only eating so many points or whatever the system is that you're doing, right? So you have little goals every day. And so sometimes, and that's stepping out, exercise, exactly. Stepping out of that comfort zone though, right? Because maybe you don't feel comfortable going to the gym, but you want to go to the gym to work out so you can hit that goal, right? So maybe going to the gym is stepping out of that comfort zone. So set the big goals, the long-term goals, those big long-term goals, so you can set your short-term goals to get to that big goal, right? And that's part of your self-confidence, because as you evolve as a person, which when you hit your goals, you're evolving as a person, that helps your self-esteem, your self-confidence. Okay, so visualize success. I'm big into having, okay, Jen, you're going to have to help me out because I cannot think of that word tonight. The poster, right? You have a poster and you put your goals on the poster. These are the things that I want. And suddenly I cannot think what it's called. But visualizing, right? And maybe sitting and visualizing every day, seeing yourself, a dream board. Thanks, Jen. So visualizing where it is you want to be, right? So, visualize yourself already being that, to that weight and how it feels. And, that's a great way to manifest it. Vision board. Thank you. But that's a great way to, I apologize. I have fibromyalgia, so I forget words sometimes. And also, like I said, I haven't been on for a week, so I got to get my brain back into this. But so visualizing, sitting and manifesting, visualizing, okay, this is what I want, visualizing yourself in that. And, how does it feel? What does it feel like, right? Maybe you want to buy a new car. And so you visualize yourself going to the car dealership and picking out that dream car that you've always wanted, right? And so sitting and visualizing yourself, going to the dealership and picking out that car and what's it going to smell like, that new car smell, and vision board. No, you're right. It was all right, Jen. But yeah, but manifesting what you want to those goals, right? And a lot of people don't understand manifestation. Manifestation, yes, you can dream it, but you have to, oh, thank you for the heart, me. I appreciate that. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. My name is Renee. Welcome. Tonight we're talking about self-confidence, and right now we're talking about goals and visualizing and manifestation. And so sometimes people think just wanting something is manifesting it. Well, when you want something, you're telling the universe, sadly, that you don't already have that. Where if you visualize that you already have that goal or that end thing that's on your vision board, you visualize it and you manifest it, then the universe goes, oh, okay. And so then eventually it will come to you. Thank you for the heart, me. Appreciate that. Hi, I'm Ray from Santa Barbara. Hey, living in lack. Exactly. And so putting yourself already there, right? Like I said, you want that dream car. So you're at the dealership, you're picking out that perfect dream car you've always wanted. You picture yourself sitting in that seat and you can just feel it. What does it feel like? What does it smell like? That new car smell, right? So visualizing it. Which is where I'm at with money, sadly. Well, that can change, Jen. It's a mindset. Remember, it's a mindset. Okay, so visualizing success. So for me, I already visualize myself coaching people, right? Because that's one of my goals is to be a life coach. And so I already visualize myself there and what it feels like to help other people. You're winning at your goals. Stepping outside of your comfort zone, which is important, right? If you're not a little bit scared or a little bit afraid, you're not stepping out of that comfort zone. Let's see. Stepping outside your comfort zone into situations that make you nervous. Last week, I went through a 5 days of 2-hour training to learn how to tell my story in public, right? to learn how to speak better. And that was for me stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm the type of person, I talk myself out of everything. And so I'm learning, not only was I stepping out of my comfort zone, I leaped out of my comfort zone to take that course, right? And to take that training. And then I did another hour. So I did 11 hours of training on how to be a speaker and how to be able to tell my story. So, you know, I don't want to say professionally. Is that the right word, Jen? Help me out again. I'm just struggling with my words tonight. Thanks for the badge, Jen, and the ice cream cone. I appreciate that. But if you're not a little bit nervous, then you're not stepping out of that comfort zone. Okay? Like I said, so when I took that training, I leaped out of my comfort zone. Body language. How does body language affect our self-confidence? I used to be one of those people who I had very low self-esteem, no self-confidence. And I would walk around when I was in my 20s, and as I would walk, I would stare at the ground, right? When you have body language that you have self-confidence, right? You sit up straight, your shoulders are back, right? You look forward. And so your body language really matters. Standing up tall, walking with your head up. Like I said, when I was in my 20s, I stared at the ground because I didn't have any self-confidence at all, or very, very little. I had a lot of low self-confidence. You know, I was really good about making eye contact with somebody if I shook their hand, just because that's what I was taught to do. You know, you make eye contact with people when you're talking to them. But a lot of the time, and the other time, you know, if I passed somebody, I was always looking down and I wouldn't make eye contact because I didn't have that self-confidence, right? So all of these things. So building your, you know, your self-confidence, you know, how do you carry yourself? You know, if you want to appear more confident, like I said, stand up tall, you know, have good, you know, I cannot think tonight. Sit up straight, right? My husband always said, you know, ladies first, and he would always open the door and I would always walk into wherever we went first. You know, I would always walk in first because he, you know, ladies first, posture. Thanks, Jen. I tell you guys, it's going to take me a couple days apparently to get back in the swing of things here. But my husband would always let me go in first, and I hated that because let me tell you why. I didn't have that self-confidence, right? And generally wherever we walked into, whether it be a restaurant or a bar or a lounge or wherever we went, and you know, people, I'd be like, oh, people are staring at me. Well, now I'm 51. I don't care if people are staring at me because one, I now have self-confidence. I now love myself. And so I don't need others' validation. And so now it doesn't bother me. I can walk in with my head high and my posture good. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? You know, it doesn't bother me anymore because like I said, I love myself. And now because I love myself and I know who I am, I have that self-confidence and I don't need outside validation. The only validation I need is myself. Howdy, Renee. It's Sandy from Phoenix. Nice to see you too, Sandy. How are you? I'm glad that you're back. So tonight we're talking about self-confidence. So body language is huge in that, right? You know, if you're sitting off in a corner somewhere and you got a hoodie on and you're all, you know, I don't want to be seen, right? It kind of shows that, like maybe you don't have the self-confidence. So stand up tall, sit up straight, which I know I slouch a lot when I'm on here, but so that's part of it, body language. Taking action despite fear, right? Move forward, grow, even when you're uncertain. And so for me, like I said, last week I took that training how to speak better and be able to tell my story. And you're fine. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad that you're fine. That's great. And so, you know, it's important if you want to evolve as a person to be able to, you know, to step out of that comfort zone. And like I said, if there isn't a little bit of fear or a little bit of maybe, I don't want to say anxiety, but a little bit of anxiousness, you're not really stepping out of that comfort zone, which is where I used to be. Anytime I had to step out of my comfort zone, I wouldn't do it, right? Whether it was a job or going out with people that I barely knew that maybe asked me to lunch. if I had a job interview and I knew it was stepping out of my comfort zone, I would be up the whole night before with anxiety, and a lot of times I would cancel and not even go to the job interview. I would talk myself out of it. You know, that old self-limiting beliefs, self-talk, you know, oh, I'm not good enough. Who's going to hire me? And I'm not worthy, and I'm not lovable, and blah, 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 right? All of those old stories that we like to tell ourselves. Don't listen to them. So taking action, despite maybe that, you know, it's stepping out and you're a little bit afraid. You have to be a little bit afraid or you're not stepping out. Who's in your circle? And I know this, you probably think, well, how does this apply to self-esteem? It does, because who are you hanging around? Are you hanging around people who are building you up and lifting you up and straightening your crown when it falls off? You know, or are you hanging around people who are, you know, there again, telling you that you're not worthy, or, oh, you can't do that. You're not capable. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not blah, 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 right? The negative Nellies. Exactly. So who's in your circle? Spend time with supportive people who encourage you. If they're not encouraging you, maybe it's time to put those people at arm's length, right? And I know sometimes when I talk about on here, a lot of times, you know, people will say, well, I can't cut that off, that person off. It's my mother-in-law. It's my blah, 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 whoever it is, right? And here's the thing. Maybe you can't cut them off, but you can keep them at arm's length, right? Maybe you're not around them as often. Maybe you don't call them as often. You know, I'm not saying you have to be mean to those people, but you need to find a good circle of people, or at least one person. Like I have a really good bestie, and I have some people that live away from me who, you know, I have a really good close-knit circle of people. Boundaries, exactly. We're actually getting to that, I think, Jen. It's at the bottom. Of people who, you know, are supportive, and they're not the negative Nellies, like Jen said. So, let's see. Oops, sorry. For what, Jen? Did I miss something? Oh, about the boundaries. It's okay. Not a big deal. Okay, so make sure you have a supportive circle. And if you don't, you know, and if those people aren't straightening your crown and they're not supporting you, then those aren't your people. And like I said, then you need to keep those people at arm's length. High confidence. High confidence. You trust your abilities, embrace failure as a learning opportunity, assert your needs, and are comfortable with imperfection. And I tell people all the time, failure is good. Most people think, oh, I failed, and that's a bad thing. Failure is not a bad thing. Think about this. How do you ever get to be successful? Whatever success means to your mind. So when I say successful, whatever success means to you, right? I don't mean that you have to have the $1 million house and the boat and the car and the camper and the vacation home. Maybe that's success to one person, but it's not success to you. And that's okay, right? Whatever success is to you. But being able to trust yourself, your abilities, right? The old Renee would have never got on a TikTok live and talked about stuff like this. I would have never even got on here and talked at all. Because if you would have met me when I was like 18, 19, 20, probably until I was almost 25, I would have never got on a live and talked like this, ever. I did not have the self-confidence to do this. So learning how to step out of your comfort zone, evolve as a person so you can trust your abilities, embrace failure. That's where I was going with that. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But you never get to success without failure. Think about that. You know, it leads me back to what my grandma always used to say. Practice, 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 practice. Practice makes perfect. Well, obviously we're not perfect, but practice makes you better, right? And so sometimes when we are practicing of something, you know, we might say, well, that's a failure, a failure, a failure, a failure. Well, no, I look at failure as a good thing, because if you never fail at anything, one, you don't learn, and you'll never succeed because unless you're a perfect person who's a genius, you will fail all the time. That's just part of life. I don't want to say all the time, but you will fail. It's just part of life. It's part of being human. You know what? And I tell people, if you get up every day and you try, if you try and you try to be better than who you were yesterday, you're not failing. You're not failing. If you got out of bed and you tried to be a better person than you were yesterday, that's success. So just a little thing of mine. Embracing imperfection, right? I'm very much an A personality. I'm a perfectionist. I like everything just right. Hold on. Failure only exists when you give up because eventually you'll succeed. Exactly, Jen. Exactly. If you're just hopping on, tell us who you are and where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee. And tonight we're talking about self-confidence. Embracing imperfection. And that's really hard when you're an A personality like me, right? I like everything just right? And I want to be able to control everything. And so one of my lessons that I learned first on, I hear ya, I had it all, and now living in the streets and even feel stronger more than ever. You know, Sandy, that's crazy that you say that. I'm glad that you brought that up. That is amazing. And I totally hear you. Like I went from, you know, we were living pretty comfortably. I mean, we didn't have a lot, but we were living comfortably. I had a camper, I had a nice car, you know, I had it all. And when my husband checked out, you know, my whole world of 32 years imploded and I lost everything. Almost every material possession that I ever had. And if I didn't lose it, you know, I had to sell it, you know, to be able to keep a roof over my head and food in my belly and to take care of my fur babies. And here's the thing is right now I'm living in my brother's basement because I stepped out of my comfort zone and I moved to California to be with my friend. And there's lots of reasons, but I had to leave there because I wasn't on his lease. And so I had given up the lease to my apartment, which I couldn't afford anyway. After my husband left, I was in an impossible situation, right? And oh, thank you. But I was in an impossible situation where it was like I couldn't afford my apartment, but I couldn't afford to get out of it either, right? And so, hi again from Kansas. Good to see you. Hey, Douglas, how are you? Tonight we're talking about self-confidence. And so, you know, some people might look at my situation and go, wow, she's a loser. She failed. She's lost everything she's ever owned. She no longer has an apartment. I'm driving my son's car, you know, and I'm living in my brother's basement at the moment. But I don't look at it as failure. I look at it as I'm rebuilding. I'm being responsible and I'm rebuilding my foundation the proper way, right? I could have tried to stay in that apartment that I couldn't afford and barely eating and well, look at me, I can make it. Well, but I wasn't building a better foundation for my future, right? Right now, yeah, I'm in my brother's basement. I'm technically homeless, but you know what? I'm more at peace with myself and my situation than I have been in a long, long time since I lost my husband. And, you know, one, because I don't have to stress about this apartment that I no longer can afford. We're not losers. We're rebuilding and now we're stronger. Exactly. Thank you for the badge. I appreciate that. And that's it. We're rebuilding a stronger foundation than ever. I'm in my brother's basement, but at the moment I'm building that foundation. I'm building my followers, what I like to say, my family, because you guys are my family. You're not my followers, right? So I'm building that foundation of people that I'm reaching out to help also, right? And so, which is helping me build my foundation for my life coaching and my speaking and all of these big goals that I have later on to help people. This is better that I'm sitting here building it from the ground up than starting it in a mess. Does that make sense? And so, yes, we're not losers at all. No, we're just building a better foundation. So I know I kind of got on a rant there. Imperfection, where I was going to go with that just real quick is I'm a perfectionist. I'm an A personality. I like things just right. And one of the lessons that my guides taught me is they're like, You know, when I put out my daily videos, my guys are like, Renee, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to take 20 times. You don't have to be perfect, right? Maybe my hair is not perfect. Maybe I flubbed up a little bit. Maybe I'm not perfect, but I've learned, put those reels out because people can see then. Sorry, I just missed this. We need you. This is perfect. Please keep it up. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. You're the only person who needs to be happy with your choices because you know what you need. Exactly. And that's just it. I don't need the world's validation anymore. I love you. I love myself. And that's all that matters to me is me and my validation. I just stay in my lane and I do me, right? But what I was saying is, so thank you for all the hearts too. I appreciate that. Is that, you know, my reels don't have to be perfect when they go out, you know, because it makes me look like a real person because I am. I'm just Renee, you know, I'm imperfect. And sometimes I get on here and I can't talk and I flubber up my words a little bit, but you see that I'm just a real person trying to help people, right? I'm just like you. I'm no different than you. I've lost everything, you know, I've been stripped down to nothing, you know, but I'm still here and I'm still trying to help people with the knowledge that I have. And, you know, after losing my husband, being able to pull myself up, as my grandma would say, by my bootstraps and be here, you know, is nothing less than a miracle. And you can ask my friend. There's been many times since my husband's passed that I was not in a great spot and I was just ready to check out, you know, and source, God, divine, whoever it is that you say or believe, you know, said, no, you have a higher purpose here. You have to be here to share your story with other people so they know that they're not alone and that they can do it too. And so, yeah, maybe I'm living in my brother's basement at the moment to try to build a sturdier foundation for myself, but I'm here to help people. I'm genuine. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And I try. That's the whole point, you know, and I'm just me, like I said, and I'm here and sometimes I flubber up and I don't say the right words or I forget my words because of my fibromyalgia. But you know what? I'm here and I'm trying to help people and I want people to know that they're not alone. So anyway, sorry, I kind of squirreled there. Sorry, guys. Low confidence. Let's see. You consistently ruminate on mistakes, fear taking risks, compare yourself negatively to others, and hesitate to speak. All right, let's back up for a second. Ruminate on mistakes, right? That was yesterday. We made a mistake. That was yesterday. Like I said, you get back up today. Today is a new day. And as long as you try to be better than you were yesterday, then you didn't fail, you succeeded. So fear of taking risks. A lot of people are like, they have to control everything, right? And they don't take risks, you know? I met this guy in California and he's like, hey, why don't you come to California? And, you know, I listened to my heart and I listened to my intuition and my intuition and my heart said, go. And I knew that I was not in a great position. And he's like, hey, come to California and I can help you get out of that tight spot that you're in, you know? And a lot of people would go, well, what if it doesn't work out, you know? And what if this and what if that? And I didn't think about those things. And I know that sounds crazy, but at the same time, sometimes we can't think of the what ifs. As my mother always used to tell me, and she still does, guess what, Renee? We'll cross that bridge when it gets there. If I get to California and it doesn't work out, then I cross that bridge when I get there and I try something different. I'm very happy that I rarely ruminate anymore because on the last 2.5 years. Yes, Jen, you're doing so good. She's so good about that. And it's hard because we've been programmed to tell ourselves that old story of, you know, maybe it was something we learned in childhood or something, you know, in early adult life of we're not worthy, we're not lovable, we're not capable, we're not whatever, all of those things, right? But sometimes we just have to step out in faith and go, you know what? It's going to work out because as my grandma always told me, where there's a will, there's a way. And some way, shape or form, you make it work. And so I stepped out in fear and I went to California, and guess what? We had decided we were just going to be friends, you know, and I wasn't on his lease. And so they're like, you have to go. And it's like, okay, well, where am I going to go? Because my kids couldn't take me and I had given up my apartment. So I came back to Iowa to be at my mom's. My mom doesn't have a lot of room. My brother said, hey, come, you know, you can come stay in the basement. I have 2 cats and a dog, so I couldn't just go anywhere, you know. But even if I had lived out of my car, it would have been okay. You know why it would have been okay? Because I would have made it okay. I don't know. I've just learned that the divine always takes care of me. Maybe we don't always get the things that we want, but we always get what we need. And I've just learned to trust my divine team, whether it be source, you know, God, whatever it is you say, your spirit guides. We all have a divine team. Most people don't realize, you know, we have angels and guides and ancestors and loved ones, all of those things on the other side, and they're there to help us. And so I've just learned to trust them because they've gotten me this far. And when I say that, that means, you know, I've built up a community on social media, and I would have never got there had I not listened to them. So stepping out sometimes in fear. Thank you for that. I appreciate that so much. So fear taking. Sometimes we have to take a risk. Listen to your gut, right? Sometimes we listen too much to the logic, our head, which that's our ego trying to protect us and keeping us stuck in that comfort zone. So sometimes we have to step out. Comparing ourselves negatively to other people. I know social media is really, it's a struggle nowadays, I should say, to not compare ourselves to other people, right? Oh, they're going to Mexico this week and they were in Dominican Republic a couple months ago, right? And they're doing so well and they're driving the fancy car and they have the fancy house. And here's the thing, guys, you know, maybe people only put on social media what they want us to see, right? People don't put out the negative. I do. Just because that's my purpose, right? If something goes wrong in my life, my guides are like, go on, go share, right? So that way other people can learn from me. But most people don't do that. Most people are like, you know, they portray that they're perfect and their life is perfect and everything is perfect all the time, you know? So what I love best is the phrase that says, comparison is the thief of joy. And that's so right, because while you're sitting there missing all of those little moments of your journey because you're comparing yourself to somebody else. Yeah, maybe they have that fancy car. They have that fancy, looks like the fancy life, right? But you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, you know? Maybe the wife looks like she's got all her shit together, but her husband beats her. You don't know. I'm just saying, until you walk a day in their shoes, you don't know that their life is as great as or as grand as it looks online. Online can show a lot of things, right? So never compare yourself to others. You know, you're here to walk your journey exactly how you're walking it. And you are right exactly where you're supposed to be at the moment. And so, you know, it's like I tell people all the time, it's not about the destination, it's about that journey, right? And so enjoying every moment, even sometimes when the moments are hard, like right now, I'm not gonna lie, yes, I'm at peace, but there's times where it's like, why is this happening faster? I wanna build my foundation faster so I can have my own place, right? And be independent again a little bit more, right? But at the same time, I understand that there's things that I'm learning right here, right now. Thank you for the follow. I do not want to slaughter that name. Do you have a name and where you're from? If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Thank you for all the hearts, guys. I appreciate that. We hit 5,000. Can we see if we can hit 10,000? Keep tapping that screen. That would be great. Thank you for sharing the live, Jessica. But yes, you know, sometimes I wish I was further along in my journey, but then my guides remind me and they bring me back. Renee, be present. That's what they've been trying to teach me for 2.5 years since my husband left, is being present and enjoying every single moment of my journey, even when it feels uncomfortable, right? Okay. So we talked about that. Talking about yourself negatively to others or hesitant to speak. Sometimes we're hesitant to speak because we think our opinions aren't as good as somebody else, or we're not as worthy as somebody else, right? Hogwash. When you learn to love yourself and discover who you are and like yourself and love yourself, then what other people say about us are none of our opinions, and you don't care because you don't need their validation anymore, right? The only validation, like I said, is yourself. And so stop talking negative about yourself. Start telling yourself, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm handsome, I'm beautiful, right? Before I moved out of my apartment, I haven't got them hung up here yet. I'm going to bring them in this week. I had posters all over my bathroom door and my mirror and my bedroom doors, saying, that, I'm the best at this and I'm the best at that and I'm beautiful. When you're brushing your teeth every day, tell yourself you're beautiful, you're handsome, whatever it is. It takes 21 days to form a habit. 21 days. So if you tell yourself every single day that you are beautiful or that you're handsome for 21 days, that becomes a habit. You catch yourself saying, oh, I'm so, I'm going to say this, stupid. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Cancel that, because one, the universe does not know that you're kidding. Replace that negative with a positive. Give yourself more credit. Give yourself grace. All right. So confidence allows you to handle pressure and bounce back from failures, right? If I hadn't built the confidence that I have built the last couple of years, yes, I have had some setbacks, lots of them, lots and lots and lots of them, and what most people would call failures. But without those, I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I needed to learn in order to move forward into my new chapter, right? So they weren't failures at all. They were just learning lessons for me to be able to step into when that new door opens, that new chapter that's coming for me, my new life. But I've learned how to bounce back, right? When something used to happen, I would go, why is this happening to me, right? When my husband checked out on me after 32 years, it's easy to sit and have a pity party and go, why are these bad things happening to me? No, nothing bad is happening to you. Things are happening for you so you can learn something. Everything in life is about learning something, right? And so now when little snafus happen, or what I call speed bumps during my day, it's like I take a step back and go, okay, what am I supposed to be learning from this, right? And now I've went through so much crap. I've been to hell and back. I don't even think it's about what I'm learning from it. I think it's my guides going, okay, we're going to throw a wrench in her day just to see her response, right? That's where I'm at finally in my journey of, okay, how am I going to respond? Oh, the car won't start today. Okay. That just means I'm not supposed to go anywhere, obviously. Maybe, I'm being protected from something, right? Somebody's removed out of my life. Obviously, they weren't meant to be in my play anymore, right? If you've heard me talk about, my husband's family basically abandoned me from right after the funeral. The day after the funeral, I never heard from anyone again. My father-in-law was like a year and a half later, whatever, right? Too little, too late, in my opinion. But my point is people leave our lives. And how my guide reminded me is, you know what, Renee, their part in your play is over. They exited stage right? When you watch a play and somebody's part is over, they exit stage right. Well, they weren't meant to be in this part of my play. So they exited stage right. So it's all a matter of perspective and, not having that defeated failure, why is this happening to me, negative mindset. Motivation. What do you have that's motivating you? What are you doing to motivate yourself, right? Like I said, I put up posters all over, do a vision board. What are you doing to motivate yourself to be better every day? Like I said, stand at the mirror I don't have a mirror anymore right now in my kitchen that I'm using, but stand if you can in front of your mirror and talk to yourself and give yourself positive affirmations, be motivating. There was a couple months ago, probably, I think it was right after I got to California. I was having a bad day. You know, I saw somebody drive by in a car that like I used to have. I missed my car. And it's not about the stuff. It was about the life that I had with the stuff, right? And so I seen somebody driving a car like my old car. And I was sitting in a park because I went to a park to put some of my reels out. And I started to cry. And the messages that I got that day was, when you're having a bad day, just dance. And so I was sitting in my car and I started to cry when I saw somebody driving, and because you know, your mind tells you that old story. Well, that was you. That was you once you had a car like that, right? Now you're just a failure and you're nobody and you don't have that car and you're homeless and blah, 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 blah. Whatever that old story is, right? And I'm sitting in my son's car. It's not even my car. Sitting in my son's car, and I started to cry. And like I said, my messages for that day is, you know, when you're having a bad day, just dance. And so instead of just putting out my reels that day, I went to the park and I did my first ever dance reel, you know, and I just danced. And I felt better and I smiled and I just felt better for the rest of the day. Instead of sitting in my car having a pity party, I went into the park and I did a dance reel and I danced and I felt better, right? So what are you doing for motivation? Believing in your capability to succeed. I know I'm in my brother's basement at the moment, but I know that I'm going to succeed. I know that my dreams are going to come true. How do I know that? Because I'm working on them every day. Maybe I'm not getting there as fast as I would like to, but I'm working on them every day. So I know that I will succeed. Let's see. Confidence helps you set healthy boundaries, communicate effectively, without fear of rejection, right? So here's our boundaries. Setting healthy boundaries. That is really important to your self-confidence, because if you're not setting boundaries with people who have a negative influence on you, then that's going to not help your self-esteem. It's just going to give you low self-esteem, right? Communicating effectively. You know, maybe somebody's talking negative to you. I don't appreciate when you talk to me like that, right? Communicating effectively to people. You know what? I love you, but I can't be around you all the time because I like my peace and you take away my peace, you know, and maybe you're going to make somebody unhappy. You're going to piss somebody off, but you know what? Sorry, I got somebody that's messaging me. But at this point in my life, nobody is worth my peace. And I don't care who you are. You're my child, my parent, my sibling. I don't care who you are. If you take my peace at 51 years old, you're at arm's length, period. Thank you for the rose, Jen. I appreciate that. So the key takeaway tonight is confidence is not a trait. Did you hear that? Confidence is not a trait. It is a skill that can be developed over time. Like I said, when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, I had such low self-confidence, such low self-esteem. My husband would drive me 45 minutes to a restaurant. And if we would get there and it would be busy, I would make him take me home. That's how low of self-esteem and self-confidence that I had about myself, because I did not want to walk into a busy place because I had no self-confidence, because I was worried what other people thought. I no longer care. My give a crap button broke a long time ago. And once my husband passed and I learned to love myself, then it really broke, because like I said, I don't need anyone's validation. I don't need anyone to like me. I don't care if anybody cares what I say or don't say or how I say it or do say it. I don't care, right? I'm going to say it anyway. So confidence is not a trait. It is a skill that can be developed over time. That should be your takeaway for tonight. If you're still with me and you haven't checked out yet, anybody have anything they want to add to that? Anybody? Well, I'm waiting to see if there's any comments. Has anybody had a loss, by the way, that you need to talk about? That's our big thing here. While I'm waiting for that, I'm just going to tell you about a couple things. I do have a YouTube channel. If you're not familiar with my YouTube channel, that is under Scorpio Medium. And so if you're not a subscriber over there, I would love it if you went over there and subscribed. All of the reels that you see here are over there, but the only difference is these lives get uploaded to over there. So if you do enjoy my lives and you missed one and you would like to check it out, you can go over to Scorpio Medium. I upload those usually within 24 hours. Loving myself, just working on skills for my future. Awesome. That's amazing. And if you need any help, please DM me and I can help you any way that you need. Okay, I'm here to support you. This is what my community is about. Supporting people with loss and moving them forward with life, however that looks like to you. So know that you're not alone. Okay, Sunday through Wednesday is when I'm here, 7:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to talk to my mod. I have one of my mods on right now. I think I could do it without one of my mods if I need to, but I would like to go back to mini read Wednesdays. I stopped doing it because when I was living in California, I had a house full of people and it was really hard for me to concentrate in my basement. I have a little more, I can focus a little better. So I think we're going to go back to mini read Wednesdays this Wednesday. I will not do medium questions. What that means is I will not pull in a loved one from the other side on a live. And I'll tell you why. When you have 40 people in your chat asking you if you can pull in their mother, their father, their sister, their grandmother, whatever it is, I have 40 people on the other side going, she can hear me. She can tell my loved one my message. And so what people don't understand is it's really hard to get messages at that point from the other side because Spirit does not like to wait their turn. And so I've got 40 people going, and so it's really hard to distinguish who is talking to me and for what person. But I will do psychic questions. My guides want me, I lean more towards my mediumship, and so they're wanting me to do some more practice with my psychic abilities. So I will do yes or no questions, no health questions. I won't do health questions, but yes or no questions on Wednesday nights, mini read Wednesdays, 7:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thursday nights, if you feel alone and you've had a loss or you're grieving somebody, I do a Zoom meeting every Thursday night for people, like I said, so you know that you're not alone. If you're dealing with some kind of loss or grief, Thursday nights at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you're interested in that, send me an email, a DM, whatever, and I can get you the login information for that. Readings. I do readings. I do half-an-hour sessions and hour sessions. And if you would like to set one of those up, send me an email. You can find my email down in my bio. Also, I have a Venmo down there. If you do enjoy my content, it does take time to make this content. So if you would like to leave me a tip, never expected, but always greatly appreciated, you can do that. You can find that Venmo down in my bio also. And then also, would you like some monthly inspiration? If you're looking for some monthly inspiration, I just started this month a newsletter that goes out by email. So if you're interested in that, send me your email on a DM or in my email, and I can put you on the list. That's pretty much everything I have, and those will only go out once a month. Everything I have. If anybody has anything else they would like to share, talk about, I didn't see anything. On that note, I hope you all have a great night. Remember to make, sorry, I was just looking. I want to make sure I wasn't missing anything. I hope you all have a great night. Remember to make tomorrow great because it is a choice. And I will be back here since it's Sunday. I will be back here tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And until we meet again.